what we're really going to be working at this afternoon is, there we go. Wow, you can actually I need a mic. That's kind of scary. What we're we working at this, hello? You can't hear me? Is it on? Okay, I got to speak into this as we go. Hello. All right. So what we want to do this afternoon, briefly during lunch, is take a little bit of time to think about, from as Christians approaching the work of advocacy, how do we have the confidence to do what it is we are called to do? How do we have the confidence and then develop the skills to be able to call the fast that we are actually talking about all this weekend? So we're going to be doing that. The way our program's going to work this afternoon for the lunch periods, we've got a brief presentation kind of looking at the experience of advocacy from the Christian perspective. What do we bring? And how do we kind of overcome some of our reticence? How do we then move from there? We're going to have a little bit of more time for questions and answers, some about how do we do this as Christians, but also if there's any content questions that have come up, as you didn't get asked this morning, did not get to ask this morning, or they may come up in some of your workshops. We are going to then do a little presentation of what one of these advocacy visits might look like. Several of you have probably been on this. How many of you have been on an advocacy visit with your member of Congress before? That's good. It's a good experienced group. Those of you who have, and those of you who haven't, it's always good to review this. And so we're going to be doing a little bit of a presentation, and it'll give us an opportunity to kind of think about what we may want to be listening to over the next rest of our time in workshops and other kind of experiences. So that's kind of our schedule for the day. Again, keep eating as you can. Yep. This is going to not change. So one of the first questions we have to ask ourselves is, a lot of times as people of faith, we have to be convinced sometimes to speak politically. We're very good at doing the charity piece. We'll talk a little about that. But we're sometimes a little bit, why are you involved in politics? We get questions, and people are, oops, I keep forgetting this is, sorry, there we go. My slide isn't changing with that slide, so I'm confused easily here. So it's really great fun. And I have a piece of paper too, so just, we'll see where we go. Advocacy often seems like you're supporting one political party. So we're often accused of being very partisan when we do politics. And we find that, first of all, not to be true. A faith perspective does exist on issues, but it doesn't necessarily have to put one party over the other. In fact, if we're going to be effective at this as advocates, we're going to need to really be working with both parties on both issues. Otherwise, nothing's going to get done, as we see right now happening in much of our time, without a lack of ability to work across the aisles. So we have to ask ourselves, what holds us back? This is kind of fun, actually, multitasking. What holds us back? There's a couple of things that we find that hold us back, that we hear, that also said by people that aren't just coming from a faith perspective as well. The people, any other kind of advocates often have these, is how do I explain these concerns specifically about funding? How do we take this information that we got from Ellen and from the other speakers today and last night and from our workshops? How do we bring all those together in a way when we've got 10 or 15 minutes? These are complex pieces to put together. How do I approach these people that even know more than I do about the budget? How do I make sure that the message that is clearly in my head might mess it up? I'm not going to say that message correct. So those are things that anybody can often hear. We hear those from anybody doing advocacy work. I think as church, we have a couple of other pieces we often think about as church people. We often think the clergy can take care of that. Well, we've often heard that. We'll listen to the clergy. Or maybe we haven't heard that. And the other piece is that often I think people are still kind of a little reticent still to talk from their faith. We don't feel like we are formed enough sometimes to speak in our faith. So in 10 minutes or less, we're going to form you in your faith. No. We're going to remind you of the things that we know. We actually know a lot of this stuff, and we can feel very confident about that. We do not need to be held back. Hey, it did change. So, you want to say anything? Okay. We didn't really figure out who's saying what yet either, so no, we did. We're just figuring it out. As people of faith, we come at this with great credibility. That's one of the things we need to remember and to be very kind of not be overly humble about. We have a great credibility about this. Our faith voice is that particular niche we come from. That faith voice is the fact that we are out there often on the front lines with people in need. We bring those stories. And we come from organized, or at least semi-organized, large bodies of groups. We don't speak as just ourselves. We speak from a tradition. We speak from churches. We speak from congregations. And so with that comes a great deal of strength.
And on Monday, it's going to be very important when you go into these offices to introduce yourself and the group you represent, because that is where there is a great deal of power. And power is important on the Hill, in case you hadn't noticed.
We also have this little thing called a moral angle. We often don't come at this from our own self-interest only. We come at this from the interest of those who are the marginalized, those who are the excluded, and we want to bring their voices, and we want to bring their voices often and better with them, but sometimes on behalf of them. And so there's that piece of that moral angle we bring, which again gives us a great deal of credibility. And you are an expert. You may not believe it, but you're an expert on these things because you are seeing people every day that are dealing with these issues. You're people that are living life like everyone else, and because of that, you bring an expertise which is often missing on Capitol Hill as we get kind of lost in numbers and kind of policy preppers.
One of the things those of us who do this for a living and are up on the Hill a lot are doing is when we have visits set up with someone, we will ask for people from the local back home community to phone in during that visit. And it really adds to the voice that we are able to express, because that again is speaking with the people, not speaking for the people. That's been very effective with offices. So be willing to do it.
Now, as faith-based advocacy, we kind of see it as two parts. I like to think of it, and this is a dangerous thing as a Catholic to kind of semi-quote Scripture. We need to be gentle as doves and sly as serpents. That's in there, right? Yeah, okay, good. Okay, it's somewhere in there. I know it's in there. I've read that somewhere. But it's that kind of bringing those things together that we do as people of faith, where we are coming from a very spiritual motivation for this, but we're also, though, in the world. We're seeing the very challenges that people are dealing with. We bring that aspect of charity that we do and that credibility of providing services, providing care, of helping to dress the wounds, but we also work from that point of view of justice in our tradition, that point of view of calling that fast that will allow us to actually not just bind the wounds, but actually cure the disease. We bring that prophetic aspect of standing for something very clear, that no, we should not cut the federal budget in a way that's going to harm poor people no matter what. But we also come at it a way as pastoral, because a lot of times the people on the Hill are struggling with these same questions as we are. And they are trying to, many of them are really trying to do this from a point of view of really needing some help and support. There's really a great deal of tension of everyone kind of yelling at them. And so it's a challenge for us to come in a more pastoral way, which again gives us credibility. And finally, we come at this from a point of view of prayer, but a prayer that is also active. It's that active kind of contemplation we talk about. It's that way of bringing that aspect of faith and prayer into action. You want to do this one?
Okay. One of the things that gets us into some offices is that we are coming in from a faith perspective. So our Christian identity as this group, or our interfaith identity when we are with a broader group, is one of the things that gets us in the door, because they know that we're probably going to come in and speak the truth. It's important in doing that we know what it is we're talking about, that we have one thing that we're going in to say. And this is a theme that if you've been at EAD before, you've heard us say. We have an ask, or sometimes it's 2 asks or 3, and you need to stick to that, because we need the solidarity of everybody speaking the same thing. Again, that's an issue of power, and it's a power of prayer, it's a power of faith, but it has to be clean and clear. And I pointed out to you this morning, one of the places where the ask statement that is your basic statement when you go into offices, where that is. It's on a sheet that looks like this. It's right after the logo, and you can get that out and read it now and another time. You'll also find it. There's a piece in here called talking points, and that's something that gives you little things to say about it, examples of what we mean by this ask. And then there's another one that is another sheet that's similar to this, that's a leave behind sheet. It's a sheet that when you finish your visit, you're going to give that back to the people you were talking with so that they can carry it on. We need to have a consistent message. That's what I was meaning by everybody going in with the same thing. This is not a time to bring in all your little pet issues that you want to talk about. This is a time to stay focused on this. And I think we need to speak with a prophetic voice. We have heard very prophetic voices last night and this morning. You know, we need to not back away from the hard things to say. You know we can't solve the issues of the economy of this United States without increasing revenue. It can't be done. I think you could see that clearly this morning in Ellen's slides. We got that message last night. We got it from Gary Dorian. There's no way to do it. And when you go into offices, the other thing that's really important is that you have to be open and listening to them, listen to their staff. An important question to ask is, where is your boss on this? Where is the person you work for? Where is this legislator on this issue? Or if you're asking a broader question on human needs, are there particular things within that your boss is most concerned about? There are some people I know on the Hill who they are real fiscal conservatives, and they don't want to spend more money, and they want to cut domestic spending. But one in particular I think of, but you don't cut food. You know, you don't cut food resources. Another person, you don't cut housing resources. So find out what's the particular interest of each person whose office you're talking with.
We mentioned we hear a lot about the idea of bringing together the idea of charity and justice. One of the things I hear a lot from ministries I work in is we do really good work on charity. There's a little bit of, again, the reticence about working with justice, the justice piece of it. You know, we do the binding of the wounds, but however, that needing to look for the reasons why and to address the reasons why people are homeless, why there's not health care, why there's not adequate food, why there's not adequate foreign aid, why we are not able to deal with any number of issues. It's asking those why questions. That becomes that question of justice. I've often heard it called political charity, whatever you want to call it, but it's that asking those deep questions about what it is. We keep forgetting to change these things. And this is a systematic change. This is about advocacy. Advocacy is about that systemic change. Advocacy is about trying to do that work of justice. It's about that way of bringing it together.
Most of your offices for denominations and your organizations like Network and Pax Christi and all of these other ones, all of these are formed because we recognize that there needs to be systemic change. We need to do the charity, but the charity cannot do it all. And if you are really in touch with what goes on with the charities, much of the charitable work through organizations does use federal funding as a base for being able to do it. It's only about 6% of the charitable work that in reality is done through donations. Otherwise, it's funneled in other ways through governments.
So we hear that call again from Isaiah, that call to do justice, that the Spirit of the Lord is upon us to do these great things. This is said to us, to carry on in our time and this time. And so as we continue thinking about these, there's other kind of ways of bringing together justice and charity from other great speakers from the past. The order of society is based on two virtues, justice and charity. Charity is the Samaritan who pours the oil in the wounds, and traveler who has been attacked is the justice role to prevent the attack. It's, you know, the policing, or whatever it may be. Justice will not come until those who are not injured are as indignant as those who are. So our compelling of this comes from Scripture. from Proverbs. You want to jump in? Oops. Oop, it didn't change. There it is. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We're moving quickly, so you've read Scripture before. We hear the one from Micah, from 1 John, where we see a little bit more of even where it gets more specifically about the idea of being an advocate. How does God's love abide to anyone who has the world's goods and sees their brother or sister in need and yet refuses to help? That's not just on a personal level, it's on a communal level as well as a society.
And I think as we're hearing this morning, it's not just the people who have a lot of the world's riches who are not willing to help, but who put up barricades to the people who don't have economic power to keep them from getting it. That's part of what we need to work at.
We see from various church documents, this is from the Catholic bishops, but all of our traditions have very clear documents calling us to justice, calling us to be able to be out there to stand on behalf of trying to solve the challenges that are out there. And it's based within, ultimately, we all share principles. Now, we could go through a large number of principles that call us, that we use in advocacy. We just wanted to share briefly 3 with you as a way to kind of, again, give you a little bit more background. And a lot of this is for you to take back to people in your own communities. As we think about, we're doing great things on Monday. We're going back to communities that can also, though, again, continue to speak out. We'll talk more about that speaking out in the communities tomorrow. But it's a piece for us to be thinking about how might we share this to invite more people into this action and work for justice. The first of these that we see and we see across our faith traditions is the idea of the dignity of the human person. That caring for the individuals that are in need to have the basic necessities of life, to be able to live life with a bit of humanity, to be able to be the humans that we are designed to be, and we are created to be, not designed, created to be by God. Human dignity, it's not a social systems, it's the common good. So if you think about how do we take human dignity and put it in a way of how we put it together in society, it's the idea, again, of the common good we've heard talked about by others. So it's like, how do we continue to bring that into what people are looking at and thinking about? And of course, for us, one that really rings even more today, this particular time, is the oops, no, we went that. We went the wrong way. Wait, how'd that happen? Option for the poor. Okay, we're option for the poor. And again, it becomes that moral test of our nation to see how well we care for those who are the most vulnerable. When trying to make decisions, and this is something that we bring to this, because these are all about choices. You know, we've heard that today. We heard that last night. This is about the political choices we make. And the political choices we make are ones that are saying those who are poor in this country, those who are poor outside of this country, they are the ones who have the first bit of what we should be asking for. They are the ones who should be cared for first. So if it's a question between doing A or B, whatever one's going to help and care for the poor the most, that's the right answer. And that's the choices we are calling for when we do this. Again, we see again from some documents from churches, the needs of the poor take priority over the desires of the rich, the rights of worker over the maximization of profits, the preservation of the environment over uncontrolled industrial expansion. Oops, wrong way. So with this, we have the Advocacy Commission. And we can see what it is, again, from Scripture reminding us, what does it mean by us doing advocacy? So we read again in Scripture, and I'm going to read this since I'm Catholic. In a certain city, there was a judge who neither feared God nor had respect for people in that city. In that city, there was a widow who kept coming to him and saying, "Grant me justice against my opponent." For a while he refused, but later he said to himself, "Though I have no fear of God and no respect for anyone, yet because this widow keeps bothering me, I will grant her justice, so that she may not wear me out by continually coming."
And it is easy to give up and say, hey, I'm not going to be able to change the mind of Representative so-and-so. But you know what? The mandate we're called to is to keep trying. We got to keep going back and going back and going back. Keep needing to keep educating that person's staff and trying to get the message to the legislator, him or herself. That's what this is about. Okay, well, you know, it all seems pretty complex, but it really is not complex. Let me just, yeah. You know, we're giving you what you need in order to do well in your visits on Monday. Again, in the left-hand pocket of your folder. Are you getting the message I want you to carry these folders around and look at things? How many people are getting that message? Good. Okay. Okay, so you've got the initial sheet that has the ask at the top. This is the one with the pretty picture on it. That's the leave behind piece. Okay? That's important. It's the background information. Restoring economic opportunity. What are some of the things that means? Ensuring adequate resources for shared priorities. What are some of the things that means? You need to study this. This is your homework. And then we've got talking points. And the talking points gives you a little bit more information. It gives you some ideas on any pushback, what we call pushback that you might get. You know, you say something that might be about, okay, there's a move afoot to reduce SNAP or food stamps, okay? And you might say, you can't do that. Food stamps is one of the most effective programs. For every dollar that goes into food stamps, $1.73 is generated back into the local community. It has kept X number of people out of poverty or out of starvation. You know, but you might get pushback and say, well, yes, but, you know, we have this terrible deficit, we have this terrible debt. So this page of talking points will give you some tips on how do you respond to that. Okay, so another piece of homework.
The teacher.
And what? No, you do not leave the talking points. Thank you very much. The talking points are for you. Now, ideally, the talking points were going to be in a different color because we were going to say you only leave behind things that are on white paper. Unfortunately, the talking points came on white paper. But if it says talking points at the top of the page, don't give it to the office. Okay, that's your crib sheet. That's a good term for it. Okay, then on Friday night, I think both Doug and I addressed the Faithful Budget Campaign. And one of the other things that is a leave behind is a 4-page document. Looks like this. And this is from the priorities of a faithful federal budget. It's from the big document, and it's the priorities. It's an excerpted part of the preamble. So that's a leave behind, and that goes into a lot more detail. Study that. There will be both the leave behind and this leave behind, both pieces. There will be more of at the church on Monday morning so that you have multiple, so that you have enough copies to take to each of your visits. Now, you don't each person have to take one for the same visit, but you'll have enough that you'll have clean copies that you can take and leave behind with those offices. Okay, so they will be at the church. That's where you'll get them. For those of you who get involved in Twitter, there's a sheet in here that is sample tweets. Aha, not a bad idea. These are also things that you could use as just sort of elevator talking points. If you run into people in the elevator, you could use this as kind of a base. Okay, now, getting ready for that visit Monday. Lots of you have done visits before, so this is great. This is a review. Some things have already been done for you. For the most part, appointments have been made. We understand. We have trouble getting appointments with some offices that they don't call back. We call them, we write to them, we send them emails. Yeah, take out your yellow sheets. Good idea. So all of us have trouble with some offices. One of the things I've run into lately is changes of staff. I sent something out to the Hill on Thursday to every budget person, every LD, legislative director, and every chief of staff. That went out to like about 2,000 people. And I got back a whole list of out-of-office replies. Now, some of those were out of office until Monday. No problem. Although we don't know how long they've been out of the office, and that might be why we didn't get a visit. A bunch of them were, I'm out on maternity leave, or I'm out on paternity leave. So a lot of them have maybe not been in for 6 or 7 weeks, which means that visit didn't get made very easily. Okay, so there are lots of things that intervene. There are also some offices that prefer not to talk to faith people because they know we're going to speak the truth. Okay, that happens too. Okay, so preparing for the visit. You've got background material, you've got homework to do between now and Monday. That's going to set you in pretty good stead. You've had these talks, you've got things to read, so you have enough background information to make you feel really comfortable. Okay, in your planning, you're going to have some time tomorrow afternoon to meet with other people from your same area. And what you need to do is see who's got the same visits. You need to get together, and as a group who are going on to a single visit, you need to decide who's going to be the spokesperson, who's going to introduce you when you go into the office, who's going to ask for the person you want, things like that. You need to figure out who is going to write the lobby report. Who is going to leave the sheet back at the church about what happened on that visit? Because remember earlier, I said to you, you need to ask questions about where that legislator is on a certain issue. We all need to know that. We need to be able to disseminate that. We need to know that. We need to have that information. So that's one of the reasons for bringing it back. And think about questions and counterpoints that might come up during that visit. Be prepared for some of that. We're looking at the talking points. What are some of the pushback things you might get, and how are you going to respond to it? And then, on Monday morning before the visit, get your group together again and practice. Now, in a few minutes, you're going to get to see a practice. We're going to have a skit in a few minutes, so where you can see people on a visit. This is going to be a nice one because this one is a friendly office. Tomorrow you're going to see another skit with a not-so-friendly office. Okay? A lot of the things under Make the Visit are pretty logical. Dress for success, be on time. When you go in, and I mentioned this before, say who you are. Not just yourself as an individual, but introduce the members of the group and the groups that you belong to. If you can think of something to thank the legislator for, to say nice about the legislator whose office you're in, I have an advantage. I can look and find out what kinds of things they've been doing and saying and what their voting record is on different things. Some of you have access to that. If you've got a computer with you, go on and look at their websites and get some of that information. If I can't think of something else, I might say, I really like the way he does his hair. Find something positive to say to make a personal connection. I claim several states because I've lived and worked in several states, and so I will state something about, if I'm in an Oregon office, I'll state something about my time in Oregon, what I was doing, and how I connect to the people of Oregon. So doing something like that. Be clear, concise, compelling, be credible. Oftentimes, a staff member will try to get you off track. They have their agenda that they want to get to. They want to tell you something. And what you need to do is find ways and work in advance on ways to get the conversation back on track. That's where this ask, which is also at the top of this sheet, where this ask is very important. Okay? So you need to keep them on track. And as much as possible, use examples from your personal experience. And like I said before, get specific responses. What are they going to do with the information that you're giving them? Are they going to co-sponsor a bill? Are they going to speak out on the floor on an issue? We're trying to get a bunch of people to speak out about the faithful budget on Tuesday when the House starts doing a debate on the budget that came out this past Tuesday, on the Ryan budget. Record the key points on the visit form and then leave the leave behinds. Okay, so you've got two things you're leaving behind. One's the one with the pretty picture on it, one's the 4-page one. And then after that, and this is something else to determine tomorrow or early Monday morning, who is going to write a note back to that staff person? Oh, when you get to the office, get the business card of whoever you're meeting with so that you have that information to write back to them in email or in post mail. It doesn't matter. And then often they will ask you questions, and sometimes it's possible, sometimes you might not have the answers to those questions. So what do you do if you don't have the answer to the question? Oh yeah, write it down and say, I'll research that and get that information to you. It's okay not to know the answers to all the questions. I often don't know all the answers to all the questions. But then when you do say that, then you need to follow through and do it. And then continue the dialogue with your member of Congress and his or her staff. Okay, are we ready to turn it over? Oops.
All right, so we have a few minutes, like about 10 minutes for questions and answers based upon what we did here and talked about today, and also based upon what you might have had some questions that didn't get answered this morning. We've got a couple of our policy people that are in the area to kind of help us do that. Where we're going to do this, to kind of save time, you have to get up and go to the mic, and then we'll kind of we'll work on you directly. So if Marty and Amelia. Yep. There's one over here,
There's one
too.
over there and one over here.
We'll try to do as many of these as possible. Try to keep them quick. Yes, please.
To follow up on your statement about following up on legislative visits, will ecumenical advocacy days help us with questions that we can't answer directly? This was a problem last year with VAWA and IVAWA. I couldn't get any information after we did our visits.
That's a very good question. If you have questions that we don't have answers for in the material that's here, I'd suggest you do exactly what I do, which is one of about 3 or 4 things, and Amelia might have another response, or Marty, about this, but I Google it. I go to, if it's about a particular bill, I go to something like CBPP, where Ellen's from, and I look to see if they have something on it. I might look for the bill itself. Those are some things that I would do. Somebody else might have a better answer.
I'd like to answer it by saying I've had great help from our Washington office on issues. I'm a Presbyterian, so the Presbyterian office in D.C. has been extremely helpful, and I don't want to bombard them, but still, it's been a great source.
Yeah, I think that's a great comment. Contact your Washington office,
Yeah.
or like for bread members, you can contact your regional organizers, all of that, yeah. Or network, yeah.
I know in the climate we're in right now, a lot of us are really immersed in the domestic piece of things, but I can see myself getting a lot of kickback from my representative talking about some of the international pieces. Could somebody give us some really good arguments, best arguments to bring back on that?
Sure. Thank you. Foreign assistance is under the biggest threat that it's been in many, many years. So it's extremely important that we do talk about that and express our support for humanitarian and poverty-focused foreign assistance. It's threatened from the House budget, which would cut that, the Ryan budget, which would cut it by 11% after cuts that it's already experienced in the last 2 years. As Alan Nussbaum was saying this morning, the discretionary part of the income of the budget includes foreign assistance. That's under great threat from the so-called sequester and from proposals to change that sequester to preserve Pentagon spending and military spending, but to cut everything else, including poverty-focused foreign aid. So it's really crucial that we talk about this. And I think everybody knows that foreign aid is only 1% of the budget. So you're not going to help improve the deficit by cutting foreign aid, but it's going to make a difference to millions of people. Look at your talking points, not right now, but there are some terrific statistics, factoids on what foreign aid does. U.S. aid, for example, feeds 46 million children, women, and men in emergency circumstances around the world every year. 46 million people. If foreign assistance is cut, millions of people are not going to have food that they need to survive. And there's some other points. Just read through it, and there's some strong arguments there. Also remember, any of you that have had international experience, have lived overseas or visited, tell some stories. That always makes a difference. If you combine some of the factoids and some of the arguments with stories, that's one of the strongest things you can do. So, and I must say that we worked really, our community, the faith community, and others working on foreign aid worked really hard last year to prevent deep cuts. The House budget last year wanted to cut almost somewhere between 20 and 30% of foreign assistance. And we all worked very hard, and that did not happen. In fact, we ended up pretty well comparatively. We really weren't cut very much over the previous year. But it's still on a downward trajectory that needs to be stopped, and I think we can work I think we need to increase foreign assistance. And you can read about that. So please say something about that. It's crucial.
Two things. Can we mention at all, even though I didn't see it, it may be, to cut back on military aid? That's my question. And I wanted to know if it would be appropriate for us to sign our names and where we're from on these left pages that we leave with the...
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, you can do that, and on the Faithful Budget, you can go online to faithfulbudget.org, and you can sign on to that statement of the Faithful Budget. That opportunity is there.
But it's okay for us to talk anti-military spending.
You're a constituent.
Okay,
you
cool.
can talk about, make any arguments that you think are important.
Yeah, I'd say that part of we need to get consensus of all the organizations on what's actually in the packet, but you can speak from your own personal perspective on anything.
I've been to meetings where my representative essentially says, "You're preaching to the choir. I agree with you completely. We're just in the minority. My hands are tied," whatever it is. Are there ways that we can advocate beyond our representatives to get them some support?
Yeah, I would say if you go into your office and your member of Congress or their staff says, "Hey, we're with you," you're speaking to the wrong people here. I would say two things. One is, it's not enough for you to just support us or be supportive of us, of our positions, because we need you to be vocal about it, and we need you to talk to your colleagues and make sure that they're with us on this as well. And I got to tell you, when we get to that lame duck session, we're not going to be looking at one bill that only looks at funding poverty-focused development assistance or funding WIC. It's going to come in this massive, big bill. And so we need to make sure that by the time when that bill is getting crafted, that our members of Congress are going into those meetings saying, we got to make sure that the bill looks like this and it represents adequate funding for the programs that we care about. So making sure that they're going into these negotiations and talking to their members of Congress and really pushing on this stuff from behind the scenes. And I'll also say we're having a hard time getting people to actually stand up and speak on the floor in support of these programs. So they might say, "Hey, I'm with you," but it's not good enough to just think that way. You got to actually go to the floor and be supportive and be vocal about that. So those are two things. Dear colleague letters are another thing. Yeah.
Can I just add one thing real quick? One of the things we often get from supportive members of Congress and from the administration and from others on these things is, well, what they want us to do more to get the message spread out there. So you can tell them, Yes, I'm going back to my church, and I'm going to let other people know, encourage others to write letters to Congress. I'm going to put it on my Facebook page. I'm going to do everything I can to get this word out. And those of you that are in denominations that have Washington offices, or you're connected to groups like Network or Bread, they can help you in terms of materials to share.
You can take two more, and we'll have more time tomorrow. So go ahead.
I noticed that each chamber has an appropriations committee and a budget committee. And I'm wondering if you could quickly distinguish the difference between the two committees and which one is more important.
Which committee?
Budget and appropriations.
Oh, sure, yeah. Okay, so budget, the budget committee is what's going on right now, and they craft the entire budget. They decide the size of that overall pie. And the appropriations committees divvy up that pie and decide how much actual funding is going to go to WIC and how much actual funding is going to go to, Head Start and all of that. And so that's how that process works.
They're supposed to have eventually a joint Senate and House budget resolution. That's not going to happen. The Senate probably is not going to have a budget resolution. It's just going to go directly to appropriations. The House will probably pass the Ryan budget next week, and that'll be their budget resolution. And at some point, the House and Senate will have to, on the appropriations end of this, will have to come up to some agreement. They may, as Ellen was saying this morning, they may kick that until after the new Congress and after the first of the year. So it's going to be an extremely messy process this year.
Well, it's a comment regarding international assistance. While some is direct assistance, there are many programs right now whose current focus is on local capacity building and infrastructure development. And those are the current buzzwords that you can use, and it's involving sustainability, so that hopefully at some point we could wean out and not need to provide as much assistance, but until the local capacity is developed, there's still a great need.
While we're switching gears, do you want to describe what's going to happen?
We are going to have an Academy Award presentation. All right? And to help us in facilitating this and kind of helping us get an idea again about what this might look like with the specific ask we have, we've asked Cricket from Results to kind of help us through this process. She can tell a little bit about results, why our actors are coming up, and we're getting the mics up here. So.
Hi, everybody. How y'all doing? Woo! We are going to have a few players come up here to help us to go through what a lobby meeting looks like. I wanted to go back to the budget and appropriations question real quick, though, and just say that the budget committee actually directs the top line levels to appropriation committees, and so there are 13 appropriation committees, and the budget committee sets the top line levels for each of those subcommittees on appropriations. So just to give you that, so whatever they say is the top line where they start making the divvying up. Oh, there you are. I see you. So my name's Nicovich. I'm the Senior Policy Associate at Results. Results is a grassroots advocacy organization that has about 100 chapters around the U.S. that focuses on both domestic and global poverty issues. And what we do is we actually train people on how to be effective advocates. And we do a lot of things like you're about to see here. Role playing. Practice makes perfect. Every time you practice your ask and start thinking through what you want to say, how you want to say it, you're going to just be better and better. I saw a lot of hands go up when you said you'd actually had a lobby meeting before. How many people have not had any kind of lobby experience before? Okay, there's a good number of you, okay? The other question is, how many of you who have had lobby meetings had them go completely awry? Any? Me? Oh my gosh. So sometimes, you have members of Congress who want to talk and talk and talk and just keep talking, and you never come back to your point that you really wanted to make. Sometimes you have staffers who don't know anything about your issue, and so you have to spend a lot of time really building them up and learning about the issue. And sometimes you have people in your meeting, and this happens, and some of us are at fault, who talk about something that you wanted to say, but you say a lot of things you didn't want to talk about for the most of the meeting, and then you may come back to the end subject. So you really want to try and narrow and focus your meeting and really set a tone for having a message and coming back to it every time. So we're going to have what we consider a really good meeting. Senator Smith's staffer. This is Kate. And so I'm going to have everybody introduce themselves standing up here. These are all of our partner organizations, and they're going to give us a really great meeting. So Kate, say your name.
My name is Kate Gaskell. I'm with the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Americas at the ELCA Washington office.
But today, Kate is Senator Smith from Ohio's aide, okay?
I'm a legislative aide, yes.
Legislative aide, okay.
My name is Sarah Rohr. I'm one of the regional organizers in the New York office of Bread for the World.
Great.
And my name is John Gonzalez. I'm the other regional organizer in the New York office with Sarah for Bread for the World.
I'm Larry Couch. I'm a lobbyist for the National Advocacy Center of the Sisters of the Good Shepherd.
Great. So we're going to have them come in and introduce themselves to Kate, Senator Smith's aide, and see what a really good lobby meeting can look like, and see, and by the way, Senator Smith is a supporter of our issues. Has been in the Senate for many years, kind of knows a little bit about what we're doing, and Kate has been in the office for 8 months.
Yeah, I'm pretty new.
She's new. Okay, 8 months.
Welcome. Are you guys my 11 o'clock?
Yes. Hello, my name is Sarah.
Hi, Sarah. I'm
Good to meet
Kate.
you.
It's wonderful to meet you. Hi.
John.
I'm Kate. Nice to meet you, John.
Larry Couch.
Larry, it's nice to meet you. Where are you all from?
We're actually from the Youngstown, Ohio area.
Oh, Youngstown. My aunt lives in Youngstown. Youngstown's so pretty, isn't it? I just love that Main Street area, isn't it? I just find it so cute. Is that Dairy Queen still there?
It is.
Oh, okay. So do you guys are you Ohio State fans? Are you following March Madness?
No, no, not at all. I'm sorry. My family's from Michigan, so you'll forgive us.
Okay.
But we're here with the Ecumenical Advocacy Days, and we'd like to...
Sure. Well, let's go on in and get started. I was able to get the conference room. Well, great. We're thrilled you're here. Ecumenical Advocacy Days. Can you tell me a little bit about this organization or this event, rather?
Absolutely. Actually, we are 3 of about 750 Christians from across the nation who just spent the whole weekend learning about economic justice and talking about our nation's priorities. So actually, that's why we wanted to come here today, is to talk a little bit more about that with you as we move into this budget conferencing this year.
Sure, that sounds wonderful. To start, I'll tell you a little bit about Senator Smith and my experience with this office. Senator Smith has been in the Senate now representing the state of Ohio, since 1982. He actually first came to the Senate, and he actually serves on the Health, Education, Labor, Pension Committee, as well as the Agriculture Committee and the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Committee. And I've been with the office for about 8 months, and I'm thrilled to be meeting with you today.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, actually, because of a lot of those committees that the senator is on, you can appreciate we're here because people in the United States, but also internationally, are really struggling to have a dignity of life, to be able to provide for their basic needs. And so we really wanted to come and say that we want a faithful budget. We, as people of faith, are looking for our budget to reflect a concern for the common good, and also programs that will move people out of poverty and that will protect the environment. These are the issues that we really want to see lifted up as our nation's priorities.
Senator Smith is certainly a champion of looking out for Ohio's vulnerable families. Serving on the Agriculture Committee for several years now, he was very active in SNAP negotiations with the last Farm Bill, and we're looking forward to being a vocal force again on that with this new reauthorization coming up.
Oh, We appreciate that. Because one of the other things specifically that we're looking for is to give people economic livelihoods. And on the Education Committee, I'm sure he can appreciate, part of that is good education and then good jobs to follow that education up with good living wage. But also that international piece about quality international aid is the other part of that.
Certainly, and international aid is certainly important, and we don't want international people to be poor. But we have a lot of people at home that are hurting. Senator Smith is just such an advocate for those Ohio families that have just really lost a lot in the recent recession, and so we are very, very focused on getting Ohio and the United States back on its feet.
Right, and we're very concerned about that as folks from our own churches and our own parishes in Youngstown. We hear the same concern that the folks on the ground are having. But in many cases, we're also telling our folks, and we'd like you to also let you know, this is an investment. Okay, we're talking about the budget with a large B, and this is an investment that needs to be done internationally before we can get into global instability. We need to really make sure that a lot of these international aid programs and these poverty-focused development assistance programs that are being kept are sustained. Otherwise, it's going to be a very unstable environment that we're going to live in, and that's going to come with its own financial repercussions. So we'd like Senator Smith to please be able to promote these programs and see it from that lens.
Yeah, if I could add to that. Again, my name is Larry Couch. I'm the chair of the Justice and Service Committee of St. Elizabeth. And first we'll talk about international things. I'm anxious to talk with you too about the needs of the poor people in Youngstown, because our parish deals with them on a daily basis. But since we're talking about international aid, I had the opportunity to go to Honduras, which is the third poorest country in our hemisphere. Been there 3 times, and the poverty is extreme. And they desperately need assistance. They need economic development. I also had the opportunity to go to Haiti 2 times, and I'm scheduled to go there in the beginning of May. And I remember the last time I was there was in Port-au-Prince, and right next to us there was this tent city with about 1,000 people living there. And I had opportunity to go there and with another person bring some medication to this young boy who was dying of bone cancer. And everyone was crowded together. Minimal sanitary facilities, a great danger to the women of sexual molestation. I mean, it just...
Oh, really? That was...
Oh, right, horrendous. But fortunately, a lot was being done through international aid, and a lot was being done by our country. And if I could just talk just for a minute, but I remember hearing Gandhi say, reading Gandhi one time saying to a young man, if you want to know how to spend the rest of your life, think of the poorest person you ever lived, and then base your decision on that. And the person that comes to my mind is this young man I saw in Haiti, who was nothing but skin and bone. I guess he was about 21, and he was out begging. And I mean, how you could deny assistance to this person and talk about cutting back on foreign aid. Anyway, it's just outrageous. I mean, what we need to be talking about, how can we better serve these people? Thank you.
Sure. And could you actually send me that story that you just said? I'd like to share that with the senator.
Oh, I would be happy to. And actually,
Here's my card.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. My next trip to Haiti, I'll keep you informed into what I see. And,
Thank you.
And we do appreciate the help the senator has provided, and we do look for him to provide even a stronger leadership role.
And now something I want to touch back on what you had said regarding Senator Smith's record with safety net programs. We're very thankful, and I want you to please convey that to the senator about his support in the past with programs like SNAP and WIC and tax credits, earned income, as well as child tax credits. But we really would like to ask if he can not only continue supporting, but push further with promoting these programs and defending these programs. Dear colleague letters. I don't know if that's a possibility, but I would really like Senator Smith to consider that and to raise this on the floor. These programs, and I know I'm talking to the choir in a sense, but they do work.
Certainly. Well, as I mentioned, Senator Smith is just a tireless voice for these programs. Unfortunately, we have such a harsh budget climate right now, and the other side is being very vocal. I don't know about the possibilities of these actions that you have said today, but we can certainly look into that and work with you further. As you know, it is an election year, and Senator Smith is unfortunately up against one of the toughest races that we've seen in a while. And to be quite honest, we're not hearing much from Ohioans that this is what they want people to talk about. You know, we're hearing a lot about bringing jobs into Ohio, and of course, Senator Smith, being the champion of the people of Ohio, is certainly committed and dedicated to bringing those jobs and those factories in, and those good jobs, like you mentioned, with education. But Senator Smith will always defend programs like SNAP, like WIC, like TFAP, et cetera. However, we're just not hearing from Ohioans that these matter as much anymore.
Again, if I could just reiterate, we do appreciate his support. I mean, it's crucial to what we're doing. But at the same time, most recent census data that came out of the 100 metropolitan cities in the United States, Youngstown is the poorest, has the greatest concentration of poor people anywhere. And
we did see that.
Yes, I know. So for this reason, for no other, we expect him not only to support these programs, but be there on the floor, in the chamber, speaking up in a loud voice, proclaiming the need for these programs, the increased funding for these programs.
But I'm going to also pass you into a little secret here, all right? We're coming in from EAD, and there's a lot of folks out there with fire and passion right now. We're going to go into our own churches. We're going to preach this message and talk about this message, and we're going to have organizations like Bread for the World who are coming in to do workshops on this message. So you can let Senator Smith know that come a couple months, he's going to start hearing, he's going to start seeing some letters on a lot of these issues. So support is coming. We're not just we're not going to leave here empty-handed. Oh, by the way, here's my business card too.
Thank you so much.
Very welcome.
Thank you. Do you all have cards? I'll put them in the card reader.
Because you're going to
out
hear
front.
from us. You're going to hear from us, and we're going to continue, promoting this message within our areas, within our various denominations, and yeah, we just very much want to make sure this is something that Senator Smith really goes a step ahead with.
It's really important to us. Those letters, those phone calls are extremely important to us. You know. I mean, I can't even tell you, even if you were to write a letter to the editor, and if you were to mention Senator Smith's name, like our press aide saves those clippings every day. You know, she's here at 7, and she is, and you know, we have interns that have Google alerts. So like, we keep track of what people are saying, and you know, Senator Smith is a true representation of what Ohio wants to see done for the vulnerable people.
Thank you, and we do appreciate his leadership. But one thing I mentioned, ran out of time. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Oh yes, you're welcome.
I'd like to leave some information for you,
great.
just to talk a little bit more with a few more details about what we were talking about, and you'll be hearing from us soon. But we appreciate taking your time this morning.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And Senator Smith so appreciates your visit, too. I'm sorry he couldn't meet with you today. He's actually back home in Ohio, but he sends his best. Oh, okay. That's a great idea.
Thank you. Our Oscar-winning performances. So we're going to leave the microphones up at the top 2 stands here, and I just wanted to ask y'all, what do you think? What do you think went really well in that meeting? What worked, and what really is something that you'll take to your meeting tomorrow or Monday? Kate, what worked for you?
What was really good, as a staffer, I can really be an internal champion for your cause, and this group was very kind to me. They got to the point. They didn't let me chit-chat about Ohio State football or basketball, so they got on message rather quickly, and there wasn't a sense of disappointment that they weren't meeting with Senator Smith. There wasn't a sense of like, oh, I wanted the member and I got you 20-year-old, know nothing. That's an extremely important message to send, that you're grateful for the staffers' time, because as I mentioned, they can really be a great internal champion for your cause.
Anything else you thought worked? Is there anything that you thought didn't work? It was pretty great. Okay, well, one of the, yeah?
In the past, we've been taught to kind of help control the staff from taking too much time with chit-chat by saying in the beginning, we'll take questions and answers at the end. We'd like to make maybe 4 points, and we'd be glad to have questions and answers at the end. Are we backing off of that kind of rigid approach now, or allowing the staffer to speak more?
So I would never, for me, and when I do lobbying meetings, I want it to be more of a conversation. And so as much as you give, you want to get from them. And so you're understanding what their issues are, what their concerns are, so you can respond appropriately. And if you go in and you say, actually, I want to tell you all about SNAP, and that person's an expert and has been working on SNAP for the past 10 years, doesn't really, you want to know what they know up front. And so I think having it as conversational as possible, but making sure you're coming back to your top line messages. What are your talking points? You can have that talking points sheet in front of you. Again, don't give it to them in the end. Keep it, that's yours. But I think that's helpful for them to just hear from you and to take from you. Oh.
We were told that there was supposed to be a group spokesman appointed, elected. I heard all 3 people here speaking quite a bit. Our group has 26 people in it. Are we all going to be talking, or is there really going to be a group leader?
Are you really going into a lobby meeting with all 26 of you? For the Senate meetings, I guess. Okay, great. Yes, you're definitely going to want to appoint a spokesperson and maybe have 2 other people tell stories. I don't think you can have, everybody can introduce their name and where they're from in the town, but you got to do that quick, otherwise you're going to eat up all your time in your meeting just in making introductions and conversation. So you want to make sure you have a person who's taking notes, and remember you have that lobby report form that you're taking back to is it a church? Taking it back to the church at the end of the day, and you're going to want to have a person who's leading and actually making the ask, and maybe someone else who's like keeping time check, just to make sure that you're staying pretty concise and to the point. And so with a group of 26, it's going to be hard to monitor, right? So
the time point actually was what I was going to say. We didn't say how much time do you have for us so that we could make sure we got our point in before she's rushing off to the next meeting. So
yeah, exactly. Oh, and now are we almost at time? Oh gosh, y'all, you're going to have to ask your questions tomorrow. Thank you so much. I hope y'all all have really great lobby meetings.